Most women think attraction is about how you look, how you move, or what you wear. But the truth? A man can forget your dress, your smile, even your touch. Yet there's one tiny thing you can give him that will live in his head for months, maybe years. It's a nickname. Not babe, not honey, not something he's heard from 5 exes before. I'm talking about a name that makes him feel like you see him in a way nobody else does. You see, when you give someone a nickname that's personal, it creates this secret world between you two. It's like you've carved out a private doorway that only the two of you can walk through. And every time he hears it, even in his own head, he's reminded of you. This is because names tie directly into our sense of identity. And when you brand a man with a name that feels special, it's like you've put your signature right on his heart. Here's the trick. Don't just pick something random. Listen to him. Notice what makes him laugh. Notice the little quirks he has. If he always triple checks the locks before leaving, call him security. If he loves making you coffee in the morning, call him barista. If he's proud of his strength, give him a playful nod to it like Iron Man. It's about showing him I see you in a way no one else bothers to. Quick question, what's the sweetest or funniest nickname you've ever given or been given? Drop it in the comments, you never know. You might inspire someone's love story today. Because here's the thing, men don't just remember women they were attracted to. They remember women who made them feel seen. And every time you use that nickname, you're pressing the play button on the movie of you two together. That's why, months later, when his phone lights up and sees your name, he'll smile, because in his head, he's already hearing the one you gave him. And trust me, he won't be able to get you out of his mind. The most dangerous lies aren't always the ones others tell you. They're often the ones you quietly start telling yourself. Let that sink into your heart for a second. Because for far too long you've been given sugar-coated illusions and recycled tactics that might sound clever but lead you absolutely nowhere. You've been told things like act distant, be mysterious, or post that picture so he realizes what he's missing. But honestly, how's that been working for you? Let me give you something rooted in truth. There's a certain kind of man out there who's not chasing appearances or falling for carefully crafted images. He's not looking for fantasy through a screen. He's after something real. And most of the time, he doesn't even realize that's what he's craving. I'm talking about the type of man who has been through life's storms. Maybe he's faced hard trials. Maybe heartbreak taught him lessons in the rawest ways. He carries a few marks from the battles he's fought, but he's still standing tall. This man doesn't fall for games. He's pulled toward presence. Not the look at me shine kind of presence, but the calm, grounded kind. The sort of woman who steps into a room without waiting for approval, because she's already chosen herself. That energy stops him in his tracks. That energy moves him deeper than any physical beauty ever could. And here's the truth, that presence cannot be faked. No filter will create it. It's something felt, something recognized. Let's make one thing clear. This isn't about twisting your words into clever tricks or memorizing robotic lines to make a man chase you like he's chasing a dream. That's old, shallow territory, and you're not here to wade in shallow waters. You're here to go deeper. What I'm talking about is something I call mental nicknames. Stay with me, I'll explain. These aren't cute pet names. They're identity awakeners. They're words that touch a man like a mirror, reflecting back the parts of himself he's been hiding. When you say them with genuine intention, they don't just catch his ear. They reach into his soul. They make him pause and wonder how you saw what he's been quietly avoiding. Imagine a man living life like a locked vault. People knock, throw him charm, offer praise, play their predictable roles. But then you come along, you say just one thing, one sentence, and suddenly something shifts. Not because you tricked him, but because you spoke straight to a part of him that's been waiting for acknowledgement. You didn't pry the vault open. You inspired him to want to open it for you. And this won't land with every man, because not every man is ready. Some are still trapped in ego. Some are collecting attention like it's a prize. But the ones with depth, they hear you, and they don't just hear with their ears, they feel it in their chest. If you want to be unforgettable, stop trying to impress, start reflecting. Stop asking, how can I be enough for him, and start asking, how can I show up fully as myself so the right man recognizes me? You're not here to chase love like it's some toy hidden at the bottom of a cereal box. You're here to be seen, to be felt, to invite, not to beg. You're the fire, not the smoke. So if you're tired of the shallow, exhausted by the games, and worn out from giving everything only to be unseen, stay close. We're just getting started. And if something about this already feels different, if you can feel it deep inside, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Let's make this a place where women like you find real conversations, heart to heart. No gimmicks, no rule book, just authentic presence, lasting power, and the real you. Strong, steady, undeniable. Now let's get to it. Here's what I mean by a mental nickname. This is the piece that changes everything. A mental nickname is not a playful little phrase you toss out when he brings you coffee. It's a soul-code sentence that bypasses his ego and speaks directly to his identity. It says, I see you even when the world doesn't. Carl Jung called it the inner image, the reflection we hope to find in another person's eyes. When you speak that reflection out loud, attraction moves from surface to soul. Let's start with the first one, the protector. The strongest men aren't usually the loudest. They're the ones who carry the heaviest burdens and don't seek applause for it. Let that feel real inside you, because it's a truth people rarely say. Men aren't walking around desperate to be needed. They're yearning to be genuinely seen. And that's a big difference. We're taught to say, thanks for helping me, or I couldn't have done it without you. Sure, those words sound polite, but they often carry an undertone of need instead of solid recognition. But when you look a man straight in the eye and tell him, I feel safe when I'm with you, you're not giving him a task, you're holding up a mirror. You're showing him what his presence, just his being, brings into your world. Picture this. A storm rages outside, lightning cracks, the wind roars, and you step into a warm cabin. No words are needed. A fire glows quietly, steady, unshaken. That's what a good man becomes when his presence is acknowledged, not for fixing things, not for solving problems, but for being a steady shelter. And maybe you're thinking, won't that make me look too vulnerable? Won't he see me as dependent? Let me be clear. There's no weakness in speaking your truth from a steady place. There's real strength in knowing you can stand on your own but still choosing to rest in someone's presence. That's not dependence, that's respect. That's not I need you, it's I see you. Most men move through life quietly proving themselves to a world that demands strength but offers no meaning for it. You can give that strength meaning, you can show him that his calm isn't invisible, it's sacred. And in that moment something in him eases, not out of pride but out of peace, because when you say, I feel safe with you, with steady eyes and a calm tone, you're not flattering him, you're lifting him higher. And believe me, he won't forget that. Long after the words fade, the feeling will stay. So if you've been wondering how to speak to a man's soul, start right there. Say it slowly, say it honestly, and keep close, because what comes next isn't just about his strength, it's about his mind. A man's mind is like a hallway filled with doors, and most people never get past the entrance. Let's be real, the world can't stop focusing on a man's looks, his paycheck, his charm, his titles, but almost no one slows down enough to really wonder what's happening inside his mind. And when someone finally does, when someone listens not just to reply, but to truly witness, something rare happens. You stop being just entertainment, you become unforgettable. This is where the mental nickname, the mindsmith, comes in. This is the part of him that shapes ideas, builds thoughts, imagines at 3 a.m. but keeps it all locked away. When you look into his eyes and say, I love the way your mind works, you're not throwing out a casual compliment, you're giving him validation at the deepest level. Picture him sharing something unusual, a theory, a vision, a late-night thought he assumed no one would get. And instead of brushing past it or politely nodding, you stop, you lean in, and with genuine feeling you say, I love the way your mind works. You're not saying he's right. You're not even claiming to fully understand it. You're saying, I see how your mind is built and I value that. Maybe part of you worries, what if I seem too intense? What if I can't completely follow what he's saying? Here's the truth. Full understanding isn't always necessary. Respect is. You don't need to map out every corner of his thoughts. You just need to let him know it's worth exploring. Because for a man who's used to being wanted for what he owns, not what he thinks, being admired for his inner world is a complete shift. Carl Jung once said, thinking is difficult, that's why most people judge. But you're not here to judge, you're here to see. You're not here to perform, you're here to connect. That's rare. And when you speak those 6 words, I love the way your mind works, as if they're a revelation and not rehearsed, something in him unlocks, not all at once, but enough to let something real step forward. Now comes the part of him that doesn't shout for attention, the part that stays steady when the world spins out. He may not be the first to speak up in a room. He may not write long messages or post poetic captions. But when you're with him, when everything feels chaotic, his stillness becomes your anchor. This is the calm center. He's not cold, he's grounded. He doesn't seek the spotlight, but somehow balance returns the moment he walks in. He doesn't have to save you. He doesn't rush in with answers. He just stays, steady, aware, present. And sometimes that silent presence heals more than 1,000 words ever could. Picture a day where everything's been too much. You feel overloaded, scattered, maybe emotionally drained. He's there, not talking much, just being. Maybe it's a quiet car ride, maybe cooking side by side, maybe a slow walk under the night sky. And then you simply turn to him and say, you're my calm when the world feels too loud. That's it. No big scene, no performance, just truth, gently spoken. You're not saying you can't handle life. You're not asking him to fix anything. You're naming the peace he brings and how it steadies you. That's when doubt might whisper, will I seem needy? Am I making this too big? What if he doesn't even know how to take it in? Here's the shift. This isn't you giving away power. This is you recognizing his energy. It's the kind of quiet strength that doesn't need to shout to be felt. The kind of presence you don't realize the depth of until it's gone. Jung once said, silence is a source of great strength. And when a man hears that his stillness, not his achievements, not his charm, but simply his being, creates safety for you, he doesn't puff up with pride. He sinks even more deeply into that role. That's when attraction transforms into trust. Not just heat, not just desire, but something that builds a foundation. Say it when it feels honest. No pretending, no pressure. And keep going, because what comes next is for the man whose loyalty never breaks. Loyalty doesn't enter with fanfare. It doesn't demand attention. It simply keeps showing up, again and again. Let that truth sink in. In a world hooked on quick fixes and even quicker exits, staying has become a rare kind of intimacy. We've adapted to people vanishing at the first sign of conflict, disappearing at the smallest discomfort. But there's a man who doesn't run. He doesn't need an audience to prove his worth. He shows it quietly, by staying when it's inconvenient, by standing steady when things are messy. That's the loyal one. He might not send daily love notes with glitter and emojis, but when things start to fall apart, he's still there. When the talks get heavy, when you're not at your best, when walking away would be easier, he stays. He chooses you not just in good times, but in the hard ones too. Picture this. You've had an argument. Emotions ran high. You assumed he'd pull away or shut down, but instead, he stays. He listens. And instead of icing him out or pretending it never happened, you look him in the eye and say, you don't disappear when it gets hard. Those words are not casual. They're sacred. You're not worshipping him. You're not saying you can't live without him. You're honoring something the world barely notices anymore. Reliability. And yes, the old doubt might creep in. Isn't that normal? Am I praising him for the basics? But here's the reality. It's not basic anymore. In a culture allergic to commitment, choosing to stay, especially emotionally, is a bold act. It takes more courage to remain present in discomfort than to make any romantic gesture. Denzel Washington once said, "Without commitment, you'll never start. But more importantly, without consistency, you'll never finish." So when a man picks consistency over convenience, notice it not with shock, but with deep respect. Because when you reflect that loyalty back to him, not as a demand, but as admiration, you don't just make him feel appreciated, you make him feel truly seen. And that's what roots him. Now let's step into another kind of strength, the quiet kind that works without applause. The man who builds from the ground up, showing up over and over even when nobody's watching. Think about that for a moment. We live in a highlight-obsessed world. Everyone is chasing attention, applause, and constant validation. But the man I'm talking about, the builder, doesn't run after noise. He follows purpose. He's not flashy, he's focused. He gets up early, not to share it on social media, but to work in quiet dedication. He makes choices with no quick payoff, decisions that might not be noticed today or even next month, but that will matter years from now. People rarely talk about men like this because their sacrifices are hidden. Their victories aren't broadcast. They are the quiet architects of real life. They don't ask for applause, they just keep laying stone after stone while the world celebrates temporary wins. Picture him, deep in his routine, worn out but unshaken. Maybe it's his work, a passion project, or providing for the people he loves. It's not glamorous, but it's steady. And in the middle of that moment, you pause, meet his eyes and say, "I admire how you move with purpose." Not, "You're such a hard worker." Not, "You're always busy." This tells him you don't just notice the effort, you notice the meaning behind it. That lands differently. Maybe you wonder, will he think I'm reading too much into this? What if he shrugs it off? Should I wait until he achieves something big? No. You don't wait until the end to honor someone's journey. You don't only cheer at the finish line. Builders don't expect praise. But when genuine recognition comes from someone who truly sees them, it nourishes a part of them they didn't even know was hungry. Jung once said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart." That's what this man is doing, building from the clarity in his heart. You don't have to understand every detail of his mission, just respect that he has one. When you say, "I admire how you move with purpose," you're not simply supporting him, you're fueling him. Suddenly the grind feels meaningful, the long hours, the effort, the sweat. It all becomes worth it. That's power. And now we shift to something different. This isn't about order, it's about fire. The man who cannot be caged, the one the world struggles to label. Some men aren't meant for straight paths. They're made for open skies and untamed roads. This man, the flame, doesn't fit the mold, and he's not supposed to. He's an untamed fire, fierce, passionate, overflowing with ideas and urgency. He doesn't stand still, and the world tries to clip his wings, telling him to quiet down, to be more acceptable, less intense. But underneath that restless energy isn't chaos, it's a deep longing to be free while still connecting fully. He's the kind of man who speaks in sparks, who starts things without needing a perfect plan, who lives by instinct rather than rules. He's often misunderstood, even feared, because you can't predict him. But unpredictability doesn't equal recklessness. It means he's alive and fully awake. He doesn't want someone to tame him. He wants someone who can stand in the heat of his fire without flinching. Imagine him pacing with a wild idea lighting up his eyes. Or maybe he's telling you about a dream so big, others would call it impossible. And instead of doubting him or cooling him down with caution, you match his energy. You look at him and say, "There's something in you that never backs down, and it pulls me in." That's not flattery. That's reaching into the very core of who he is. You didn't shrink from his fire, you honored it. That kind of reflection is rare. And yes, the fears might surface. What if I make his ego too big? What if he leaves? What if I can't keep up? But here's the truth. You're not here to put out his flame. You're here to let it burn next to yours. You're not losing control. You're offering your presence. And that kind of connection, that's magnetic. We live in a world that thrives on highlights. Everywhere you look, people are chasing visibility, craving likes, seeking approval, and begging for validation. It's a constant loop of showing, posting, and performing. But the man I'm talking about, the builder, is different. He doesn't chase the noise. He chases purpose. He's not concerned with putting on a show. He's focused. He wakes up early, not to post a story for the world to see, but to quietly work on something meaningful. He makes decisions that won't give him instant rewards, choices that might go unnoticed for days, weeks, or even months, but that matter in the long run. And here's the thing, people rarely talk about these men. Why? Because their sacrifices are invisible. Their wins aren't plastered all over social media. Their successes aren't loud. They're the silent architects of real life. They're not asking for applause or recognition. They just keep laying stone after stone, building something solid, even when the world is too busy cheering for flashy, short-lived victories. Picture him in your mind. He's knee-deep in his routine, tired but steady. Maybe he's working long hours, pouring himself into a passion project, or simply doing whatever it takes to provide for the people he loves. It's not glamorous work. There are no flashing lights, no instant fame, but it's consistent, and that's what matters. And in the middle of that moment when he's locked into his world, you pause, look at him and say, I admire how you move with purpose. Not, you're such a hard worker. Not, you're always so busy. No, that phrase is different. It tells him that you don't just see the effort, you see the meaning behind it. And that hits differently. I know you might wonder, will he think I'm reading too much into this? What if he brushes it off? Should I wait until he makes it before I say something? No. You don't wait for the outcome to acknowledge the intention. You don't clap only when someone crosses the finish line. The truth is, builders don't ask for praise, but when it comes from someone who truly sees them, not just the work, but the heart behind the work, it feeds something inside them they didn't even realize was hungry. Jung once said, your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. And that's what the builder does. He follows the clarity of his heart. You don't have to understand every detail of his mission. You just need to respect that he has one. When you tell him, I admire how you move with purpose, you're not just giving a compliment, you're adding fuel to his drive. Suddenly, the grind feels lighter, the sweat feels worth it, and that right there is power. Stay close, because what comes next isn't about order, it's about fire. The kind of fire you can't cage, the kind of man the world struggles to figure out. Some men aren't meant to walk a straight, safe path. They're born for open skies and untamed roads. Let that sink in, because this man, this flame, he doesn't fit the mold. He never did. He's the uncontainable fire, fierce, passionate, overflowing with ideas and urgency. He doesn't stay still. And the world, it tries to slow him down. It tells him to speak softer, act calmer, be more acceptable, be less complicated. But deep inside that rebellion isn't chaos, it's freedom. It's a deep craving to live fully and stay connected to something real. This is the man who talks in sparks, who starts before he has a plan, who trusts his gut more than any set of rules. And because of that, he's often misunderstood, even feared, because people can't predict him. But unpredictability doesn't mean recklessness. It means he's alive. He's not looking for someone to tame him. He's searching for someone who won't flinch at his fire. Now imagine him pacing the floor, lit up by a wild idea, or opening his heart about a dream others would laugh at. And instead of doubting him or trying to ground him with caution, you meet his energy. You look straight into his eyes and say, "There's something in you that never backs down, and it draws me in." You didn't just flatter him, you touched the very core of who he is. You didn't run from his fire, you honored it. And that kind of reflection, it's rare. And yes, doubts might creep in. What if it inflates his ego? What if he drifts away? What if you can't match that fire? But here's the truth. You're not here to put out his flame. You're here to let it burn next to yours. You're not giving up control. You're offering presence. And that presence, that's magnetic. Because when two fires burn side by side, they don't weaken each other. They light up the sky. And that's the beauty of it. You're not competing for who burns brighter. You're just burning together. You're not afraid of his wildness because you've got your own. You understand that passion isn't meant to be tamed, it's meant to be matched. And when he feels that, when he feels that you're not trying to change him, he'll trust you in a way he doesn't trust most people. And maybe, just maybe, that trust will make him see you as part of his journey, not as someone watching from the sidelines, but as someone running right there with him. That's the moment when your connection shifts. That's the moment when you're no longer just someone in his life. You're part of his fire, his purpose, his story. And that's where the real bond is forged.